The emergency beacon screamed across 17 star systems, its desperate signal cutting through the void like a knife through silk. On the mining world of Kepler 442b, Administrator Zura Velnathi clutched the communication device with trembling hands as her people died around her. "Please," she whispered into the transmitter, her voice breaking. "Anyone who can hear this, we need angels. We need salvation. The court hack swarm has found us." The transmission carried her words to every listening post within 50 light-years. Most who heard it simply marked another world lost to the insectoid plague that had been sweeping through the outer rim for 3 months. The court hack swarm consumed everything in their path: organic matter, technology, hope itself. But, on a small space station orbiting Earth's moon, Chief Communications Officer Sarah Chun sat up straighter in her chair. She had been monitoring deep space channels for exactly this kind of transmission. Earth had been watching the court hack advance with growing concern, not because they posed an immediate threat to humanity, but because they were destroying potential trade partners and allies. "Captain Rodriguez," Sarah called out, patching the signal through to the station commander. "We've got another distress call from the Kepler system. Civilian population requesting immediate evacuation assistance." Captain Maria Rodriguez had served in 3 different wars before taking command of Luna Station. She knew the sound of genuine desperation when she heard it. The alien woman's voice carried that particular note of someone who had already accepted death, but still fought for her people. "How many ships do we have available for humanitarian deployment?" Rodriguez asked. Sarah checked her screens. "The Terran Defense Force has the TDF Retribution finishing repairs in Dock 7. Admiral Khan's been itching to test her new weapon systems anyway." Rodriguez nodded slowly. The TDF Retribution was humanity's newest heavy cruiser, equipped with experimental weapons that had never been tested in real combat. Admiral Yasmin Khan commanded the most elite strike force in human space, soldiers who specialized in impossible missions and overwhelming odds. "Send word to Admiral Khan," Rodriguez decided. "Tell her we have a rescue mission that might require significant hostile contact." 2 hours later, Admiral Khan stood before her assembled strike team in the briefing room of the TDF Retribution. The ship hummed with barely contained power as its fusion reactors fed energy to systems that had been designed for one purpose: delivering devastating violence to humanity's enemies. "Ladies and gentlemen," Khan began, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had never lost a battle, "we've received a distress call from the mining colony on Kepler 442b. Approximately 40,000 civilian aliens are trapped while the court hack swarm consumes their world." She activated the holographic display, showing the distant planet. Intelligence reports filled the air around them with tactical data and casualty estimates. "The aliens are expecting angels," Khan continued. "They're praying for salvation, for peaceful rescue ships to carry them to safety." She smiled, but there was nothing warm about it. "Unfortunately for the court hack, they're getting us instead." The strike team erupted in dark laughter. These were soldiers who had been trained by the best military minds humanity had ever produced. They carried weapons that could crack open asteroids and wore armor that could withstand nuclear detonations. They were not angels by any definition. Lieutenant Colonel Jake Morrison raised his hand. "Ma'am, what's our tactical assessment of the court hack forces?" "Intelligence estimates between 500,000 and 1 million drone units, supported by approximately 50,000 warrior-class bioships," Khan replied. "Their standard tactics involve overwhelming numerical superiority and rapid resource consumption." Morrison grinned. "Sounds like they haven't met humans before." "No," Khan agreed. "They haven't. The court hack have been successful against every species they've encountered because those species tried to fight them conventionally. They tried to match numbers with numbers, ships with ships. They fought like civilized beings." She gestured to another display showing human military doctrine. "We're going to remind the galaxy why every species that has ever encountered humanity in warfare has developed very specific words in their languages for human tactics, and why none of those words are complementary." Major Sarah Kim, the ship's tactical officer, pulled up the deployment plans. "We'll be using the new Hellfire missile systems, backed by our standard kinetic bombardment packages. The Retribution's main gun has been upgraded with experimental antimatter charges. What about civilian casualties? Asked Captain Torres from the Marine contingent. Khan's expression grew serious. That's why we're here, Captain. Every civilian we save is a victory. But, let me be clear, we're not going in to negotiate or find peaceful solutions. We're going in to kill every single court hack on that planet and send a message to the rest of their swarm. The briefing continued for another hour as they reviewed every aspect of the mission. The Retribution would jump directly into the system, assess the tactical situation, and begin immediate combat operations. There would be no warning shots, no attempts at communication with the court hack. Humanity's first contact with the swarm would be a demonstration of exactly why Earth had never been successfully invaded. Meanwhile, on Kepler 442b, Administrator Velnathy watched her world die through the reinforced windows of the emergency shelter. The court hack had landed 6 hours ago and immediately begun their standard consumption pattern. They stripped vegetation, consumed wildlife, and methodically hunted down any sentient beings they could find. Administrator, called out Dr. Kent from the communication station. I'm still receiving responses to our distress beacon. Velnathy turned hopefully. Anyone close enough to help? There's one signal, Kent replied hesitantly. But the response is strange. They're not offering evacuation. They're asking for tactical information about court hack forces and requesting permission to engage in what they call hostile intervention. Hostile intervention? Velnathy repeated. Her people, the Althan, had been pacifists for 3,000 years. Violence was so far outside their cultural experience that they barely had words for military concepts. The transmission identifies them as the Terran Defense Force, Kent continued. Species designation, human. They're asking for detailed information about court hack deployment patterns and civilian shelter locations. Velnathy had never heard of humans, but anyone willing to fight the court hack was welcome. Send them everything we have. Tactical scans, population centers, our best estimates of enemy numbers. As the data transmitted toward the approaching human ship, Velnathy allowed herself a moment of hope. Perhaps these humans had some kind of advanced defensive technology. Maybe they could evacuate her people or establish some kind of protective barrier. She had no way of knowing that the Terran Defense Force had no interest in defensive measures. The TDF had been created with one simple purpose: to kill humanity's enemies so thoroughly that no one would ever consider threatening Earth again. The TDF Retribution dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system with characteristic human subtlety, which is to say, none at all. The ship's experimental stealth systems immediately engaged, making it effectively invisible to court hack sensors, while its advanced scanning arrays began cataloging every enemy unit within the system. Tactical assessment, Admiral Khan ordered as she took her position on the bridge. We're looking at approximately 800,000 court hack drones on the planet's surface, reported Major Kim. 57 bioships in orbit, ranging from frigate to dreadnought class. They're following standard consumption patterns, widespread deployment across the planet's surface with focused attacks on population centers. Khan studied the tactical display with professional interest. The court hack were indeed numerous, but they had made several critical errors from a human tactical perspective. They had focused entirely on ground operations without maintaining adequate orbital security. Their bioships were clustered together, probably for efficiency in resource transfer. Most importantly, they had never faced an enemy that specialized in what humans called excessive response. Launch Phase 1, Khan ordered. The TDF Retribution carried weapons that had been designed by a species that had spent most of its evolutionary history finding new ways to kill each other. Humanity had achieved peace on Earth not through enlightenment, but through developing weapons so terrible that war became unthinkable. Those same weapons had been refined and improved for use against alien threats. The ship's main gun fired first. The experimental antimatter charge accelerated to near-light speed before impacting the largest court hack bioship. The resulting explosion could be seen from the planet's surface as a new star briefly ignited in the sky. The bioship and 3 others nearby simply ceased to exist, transformed into their component atoms in a fraction of a second. Before the other court hack ships could react, the Retribution launched its Hellfire missile barrage. Each missile carried enough explosive power to level a city, and There were 300 of them. They spread out across the Court-Hack fleet like deadly flowers, seeking their targets with artificial intelligence that had been programmed by humanity's most creative military minds. The results were spectacular. Bioships that had evolved to resist most forms of energy weapons found themselves overwhelmed by sheer kinetic force and chemical explosives. The Court-Hack had never encountered an enemy that solved tactical problems by simply applying more violence until the problem ceased to exist. Orbital superiority achieved, reported Major Kim. Court-Hack fleet is down to 12 functional ships, and they're attempting to flee the system. Negative, Khan replied coldly. No survivors. Pursue and destroy. The Retribution's engines flared as it began hunting down the fleeing bioships. This was not a rescue mission that happened to involve combat. This was a demonstration of human warfare doctrine, which held that enemies should be destroyed so completely that their allies would think twice before threatening humanity again. On the planet below, Administrator Velnathy watched the lights in the sky with amazement. In less than 10 minutes, the massive Court-Hack fleet that had seemed unstoppable was either destroyed or running for their lives. But her relief was tempered by growing confusion. Dr. Kent, she called out, are you receiving any communication from these humans? Evacuation instructions or landing coordinates? Kent checked his instruments. Nothing yet, Administrator. But I am detecting massive energy readings from the orbital battle. Whatever weapons they're using, they're significant. What neither of the Althan understood was that the humans hadn't come to rescue them in the way they expected. Humanity had received a distress call asking for angels, but angels were not what the galaxy was going to get. The TDF Retribution and her crew had come to solve the Court-Hack problem permanently, and they intended to do so in the most violent, overwhelming manner possible. As the last Court-Hack bioship was reduced to debris, Admiral Khan turned her attention to the planet below. The real work was about to begin. 800,000 Court-Hack drones covered the surface, and every single one of them needed to die. Begin ground assault preparations, Khan ordered, and someone send a message to those civilians. Tell them to stay in their shelters and mark their locations clearly. Things are about to get very loud down there. The message from the human ship reached the emergency shelter just as the first explosions began raining down from orbit. Administrator Velnathy stared at the communication screen, trying to understand what she was reading. Stay in marked shelter locations. Orbital bombardment commencing in 60 seconds. Any Court-Hack within 50 kilometers of your position will be eliminated. Maintain radio silence except for emergencies. TDF Retribution out. Orbital bombardment. Dr. Kent repeated, his voice climbing to near panic. They're going to fire on the planet from space? Before Velnathy could respond, the first kinetic strike hit the Court-Hack staging area 20 kilometers away. The ground shook like an earthquake as several tons of tungsten, accelerated to incredible velocity, punched through the planet's crust. The flash of the impact lit up the horizon like a second sunrise. These humans, Velnathy whispered, watching through the shelter's reinforced viewing port. What kind of species wages war like this? She would have been terrified to learn that orbital bombardment was considered a relatively gentle opening move by human military standards. Admiral Khan and her tactical team were being extremely careful to avoid civilian casualties while still demonstrating the futility of resistance. Aboard the TDF Retribution, Major Kim coordinated the bombardment with surgical precision, targeting clusters 7 through 12. Civilian shelters are marked and excluded from strike zones. Beginning precision elimination of Court-Hack ground forces. The ship's advanced targeting systems could identify individual Court-Hack drones from orbit and track their movement patterns. What followed was not a battle in any conventional sense. It was an extermination carried out with industrial efficiency. Each kinetic strike eliminated hundreds of Court-Hack drones simultaneously. The aliens had evolved to be incredibly resistant to biological and energy weapons, but they had no defense against having mountains dropped on them from space. Their chitinous armor, designed to stop claws and plasma bolts, provided no protection against the kinetic force of projectiles moving at significant fractions of light speed. Admiral, reported Lieutenant Morrison from the sensor station, we're detecting organized Court-Hack movement toward the primary civilian shelter. The court hack had realized they were being systematically destroyed and were making a desperate attempt to take hostages. It was tactically sound from their perspective, but they had made one critical error. They assumed humans would prioritize civilian safety over military objectives. Launch the ground assault, Khan ordered. Full deployment. Authorization code Omega. Throughout the ship, alert klaxons began sounding. In the deployment base, 500 of humanity's most elite soldiers began strapping on armor that had been designed to make individual humans into walking weapons of mass destruction. Captain Elena Vasquez had served in the Terran Defense Force for 8 years and had never encountered a situation that couldn't be resolved through the application of superior firepower. As she checked her powered armor systems, she reviewed the mission parameters one final time. "Listen up, Marines," she announced to her unit. "We have approximately 50,000 hostiles converging on civilian positions. Rules of engagement are simple. Anything that isn't human or obviously civilian gets eliminated. These bugs have been terrorizing the Outer Rim for months. Today, they learn why that was a mistake. The powered armor suits that humanity's soldiers wore were technological marvels that amplified human strength, speed, and durability to superhuman levels. Each suit carried enough firepower to level city blocks, and enough defensive capability to survive direct hits from heavy weapons. More importantly, they were operated by humans who had been raised in a culture that celebrated creative problem-solving and overwhelming response to threats. The drop pods launched from the Retribution like meteors, carrying human soldiers toward the planet's surface at speeds that would have been instantly fatal to any unprotected organism. The court hack detected the incoming objects, but dismissed them as debris from the orbital bombardment. They had no experience with species that used kinetic insertion to deploy ground forces directly into combat zones. Captain Vasquez's pod impacted the planet's surface 3 kilometers from the largest group of approaching court hack. She emerged from the smoking crater with her squad's weapons already charging. Through her armor's advanced sensors, she could see the massive swarm of insectoid creatures moving toward the civilian shelter with single-minded determination. "All units, this is ground command," came Admiral Khan's voice through the communication system. "You are authorized to engage at will. Show them why humans don't negotiate with terrorists." What followed was a demonstration of human warfare that would be studied by military theorists across the galaxy for centuries. The court hack had evolved to be perfect predators, fast, strong, armored, and utterly ruthless. They had overwhelmed dozens of species through sheer numerical superiority and biological adaptation. They had never faced humans. Vasquez opened fire with her shoulder-mounted plasma cannon, each shot designed to punch through starship armor. Court hack drones simply vaporized under the assault. Her squad spread out in textbook formation, creating overlapping fields of fire that turned the approaching swarm into a killing ground. "Contact front," shouted Sergeant Liu as his unit engaged another group of court hack warriors. "These things are fast." The court hack were indeed fast, but human reflexes augmented by powered armor and combat stimulants were faster. More importantly, humans had spent thousands of years learning to kill things that were bigger, stronger, and more dangerous than they were. The principle of using tools, tactics, and teamwork to overcome superior opponents was hardwired into human culture. Private Jackson ducked under a court hack warrior's slashing claws and triggered his armor's close combat systems. Monomolecular blades extended from his gauntlets as he drove them upward into the creature's thorax. The court hack's armor, evolved to stop natural weapons, offered no resistance to blades that could cut through molecular bonds. "These things bleed green," Jackson reported with professional satisfaction, "and they die just fine when you hit them hard enough." The battle was brutal but brief. 50,000 court hack drones had seemed like an overwhelming force to the terrified civilians hiding in their shelter. Against 500 human soldiers equipped with military technology that had been refined through millennia of warfare, they lasted less than 20 minutes. From orbit, Admiral Khan watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. Every red dot representing a court hack unit was systematically being replaced with blue dots indicating human victory. This was not warfare as most galactic species understood it. This was professional extermination carried out by experts. "Admiral," reported Major Kim, Ground forces are reporting complete elimination of Court-Hack units in sectors 7 through 15. Civilian areas are secure. What about the remaining Court-Hack forces? Khan asked. Kim checked her displays. Scattered groups across the planet, but they're fleeing rather than fighting. Total remaining count is approximately 200,000, down from 800,000 at the start of operations. Khan nodded. Continue pursuit. No survivors. In the emergency shelter, Administrator Velnathy watched in stunned silence as the sounds of battle gradually faded. Through the reinforced windows, she could see strange lights moving across the landscape, the helmet displays of human soldiers as they systematically hunted down the remaining Court-Hack forces. Dr. Kent, she called out. Are you receiving any communication from the humans? Yes, Administrator. They're requesting a full population count and asking about wounded civilians. They want to establish a secure perimeter around our shelter and begin medical evacuation procedures. Velnathy felt a wave of relief wash over her. Finally, the rescue operation she had been expecting was beginning. Tell them we have 37,000 survivors in this facility, with approximately 2,000 requiring immediate medical attention. What she didn't understand was that medical evacuation was a secondary concern for the humans. Their primary objective was ensuring that no Court-Hack survived to report back to their swarm about human capabilities. The rescue operation would proceed, but only after every hostile had been eliminated. Captain Vasquez stood atop a pile of Court-Hack corpses, surveying the battlefield with professional interest. Her armor's sensors indicated that Court-Hack biology was fascinating from a military perspective. They were highly adaptable and extremely resilient. Unfortunately for them, human weapons had been designed to kill things that were much more dangerous than anything biology could produce. Captain, came Lieutenant Chen's voice over the communication system. We've got movement in Sector 23. Looks like a group of Court-Hack trying to establish a defensive position around some kind of spawning facility. Vasquez checked her tactical display. The Court-Hack were attempting to protect what appeared to be their reproduction center, probably hoping to preserve enough breeding stock to continue their expansion. It was tactically sound, but strategically pointless. All units, converge on Sector 23, Vasquez ordered. Prepare for facility assault. Use heavy weapons. Whatever they're protecting in there, we want it completely eliminated. The assault on the Court-Hack spawning facility demonstrated another aspect of human warfare that distinguished it from most galactic species. Where others might have attempted to capture the facility for study or tried to negotiate for the non-combatants inside, humans applied their standard doctrine: complete destruction of the enemy's capacity to wage war. The facility was protected by several thousand Court-Hack warriors, all of them larger and more heavily armored than the drones the humans had been fighting. They had positioned themselves with obvious tactical skill, creating defensive positions that would have been extremely difficult for conventional forces to assault. Unfortunately for the Court-Hack, humans had stopped fighting conventional warfare approximately 3,000 years ago. Deploy the bunker busters, Vasquez ordered. Each human squad carried weapons specifically designed for destroying fortified positions. The bunker buster missiles were small enough to be portable, but powerful enough to crack open asteroid bunkers. Against biological fortifications, they were spectacularly effective. The Court-Hack facility simply disappeared in a series of controlled explosions that left nothing but a crater where their last stronghold had been. Any Court-Hack inside, along with whatever reproductive material they had been protecting, was instantly reduced to its component atoms. Sector 23 secure, Vasquez reported. Facility eliminated. No survivors. Admiral Khan received the report with professional satisfaction. Excellent work, Captain. All units, begin final sweep operations. I want every square kilometer of this planet checked. Any Court-Hack that escaped the initial assault needs to be found and eliminated. The final phase of the operation took 6 hours. Human soldiers spread across the entire planet in small teams, using advanced sensors to track down every remaining Court-Hack. The few aliens who had managed to hide were systematically located and eliminated. By the time the sun set on Kepler 442b, the planet was completely free of Court-Hack presence for the first time in 3 days. In the emergency shelter, Administrator Velnathy finally received the message she had been waiting for. Administrator Velnathi, this is Admiral Khan of the TDF Retribution. The court hack threat has been eliminated. We are prepared to begin medical evacuation and temporary relocation procedures for your people. Please prepare a list of your most critically wounded for priority transport. Velnathi stared at the message, trying to process what she had just witnessed. In less than 12 hours, these humans had arrived, destroyed an entire court hack invasion force, and secured the planet. They had done it with a level of overwhelming violence that was barely comprehensible to her peaceful species. Dr. Kempf, she said quietly, I think we need to learn more about these humans. If this is how they respond to requests for help, I'm not sure the galaxy is prepared for them. She had no way of knowing that the demonstration on Kepler 442b was about to be broadcast across every communication network in known space, along with a simple message from the Terran Defense Force. Humanity is now accepting requests for hostile intervention services. News of the Kepler 442b incident spread across the galaxy faster than light-speed communication networks could carry it. Within 72 hours, every major species had received detailed sensor logs of the engagement, along with tactical analyses that left military experts struggling to understand what they had witnessed. In the Galactic Council chambers on Nexus Prime, representatives from 47 different species gathered for an emergency session. The massive circular hall buzzed with nervous conversation as delegates tried to process the implications of humanity's first contact with the galactic community. High Counselor Thex Ran of the Altari Confederacy called the session to order with obvious reluctance. The Altari had been the galaxy's dominant military power for over 3 centuries, their disciplined fleets maintaining peace through superior technology and tactical doctrine. The sensor logs from Kepler 442b had shaken their confidence in ways that 300 years of successful conflicts had not. Fellow representatives, Thex Ran began, his normally steady voice carrying an undertone of uncertainty. We are gathered today to discuss the emergence of a previously unknown species that has designated itself as humanity. 3 days ago, they responded to a distress call from the mining world Kepler 442b. The holographic display activated, showing tactical recordings of the engagement. Delegates watched in stunned silence as human forces systematically dismantled a court hack invasion fleet that should have been virtually unstoppable. The court hack swarm has been advancing through the outer rim for 4 months, continued Thex Ran. They have consumed 17 worlds and eliminated approximately 4 billion sentient beings. Every military force that has engaged them has been overwhelmed through sheer numerical superiority. Ambassador Velkar of the Nexian Republic raised a tentacle. High Counselor, our intelligence reports indicate that the humans deployed a single ship against forces that had previously required entire battle groups to engage. How is this possible? Thex Ran gestured to the tactical display, where human weapons fired with devastating effect. According to these recordings, humanity appears to have developed military technology that operates on principles we don't fully understand. Their weapons generate power outputs that should require ships 10 times larger than the vessel they deployed. The recording continued, showing human soldiers engaging court hack ground forces. Delegates who had spent centuries studying warfare watched in amazement as 500 humans systematically eliminated 50,000 hostiles in less than 20 minutes. This is impossible, declared General Kexthor of the Draconian Empire. No species achieves this level of military efficiency without centuries of constant warfare. These humans would have had to fight continuously for thousands of years to develop such capabilities. What none of the galactic representatives understood was that General Kexthor was absolutely correct. Humanity had indeed fought continuously for thousands of years against each other. By the time Earth achieved global peace, human military doctrine had been refined through countless conflicts that had pushed the species to develop increasingly creative methods of warfare. Ambassador Zilnex of the Crystalline Domains accessed her species' historical databases. I have reviewed our records of emerging civilizations. Most species require approximately 1,500 years to develop interstellar military capabilities. These humans appear to have achieved technological parity with established powers in less than 2 centuries. That's not the disturbing part, interjected Admiral Siwar Thak of the Altari military. I've analyzed their tactical doctrine, and it doesn't match any known strategic framework. They don't appear to fight to achieve territorial objectives or resource acquisition. They fight to eliminate enemies completely. The recording showed the systematic destruction of the court hack spawning facility. Delegates watched as human forces used excessive firepower to ensure nothing survived. No negotiation, no prisoners, no strategic objectives beyond total enemy elimination, Admiral Sarthak continued. This suggests a military philosophy that prioritizes decisive victory over all other considerations. High Counselor Thexran called for order as nervous conversations erupted throughout the chamber. The immediate question before us is how to respond to humanity's request for formal diplomatic contact. The request had arrived 6 hours after the Kepler 442b engagement, transmitted simultaneously to every major government in the galaxy. It was brief, professional, and deeply unsettling. The Terran Defense Force extends greetings to the galactic community. We are prepared to establish formal diplomatic relations and discuss mutual defense agreements. We specialize in hostile intervention services and are available for consultation regarding persistent security threats. Please direct all inquiries to Admiral Khan aboard the TDF Retribution. Ambassador Velkar reviewed the message again. They're offering military services to species they've never met, based on a single engagement against a known threat. Either they're supremely confident in their capabilities, or they don't understand the scope of galactic warfare. What the galactic community didn't realize was that humanity understood perfectly. Earth's military strategists had been monitoring galactic communications for decades, analyzing conflicts, and developing doctrine specifically for dealing with alien threats. The court hack engagement had been a carefully calculated demonstration designed to establish humanity's credentials as a military power. Meanwhile, aboard the TDF Retribution, Admiral Khan was reviewing response messages from across the galaxy. Most were diplomatic inquiries, but several caught her attention as potential contracts. Admiral, reported Major Kim, we're receiving urgent requests from 3 different species. The Vorthan Assembly is dealing with pirates in their outer sectors. The Calarian Federation has a territorial dispute with something called the Hive Collective, and the Althan Mining Consortium is asking for security consultation regarding future court hack threats. Khan studied the tactical reports attached to each request. The galactic community was discovering that having humans available for military consultation opened up strategic options that had never existed before. What's the assessment of the Hive Collective threat? Khan asked. Approximately 2 million combat units spread across 12 star systems, Kim replied. They appear to be a machine intelligence that converts organic matter into robotic drones. The Calarian Federation has been fighting them for 18 months with limited success. Khan smiled. Machine intelligences were predictable enemies. They followed logical patterns and relied on numerical superiority. They had never faced opponents who specialized in creative problem-solving and asymmetrical warfare. Send a reply to the Calarian Federation, Khan ordered. Inform them that the Terran Defense Force is prepared to provide comprehensive solution services for their Hive Collective problem. Standard rates apply. The concept of standard rates for military intervention was something humanity had invented specifically for the galactic market. Earth's economists had calculated pricing structures for various types of hostile elimination, from simple piracy suppression to complete species pacification. Dr. Sarah Chun, the mission's xenological specialist, reviewed the incoming communications with growing fascination. Admiral, we're receiving cultural analysis requests from 17 different species. They want to understand human military capabilities and strategic doctrine. What are you telling them? Khan asked. The truth, Chen replied. That humans evolved on a planet where every species was either predator or prey, that we spent 10,000 years fighting each other with increasingly sophisticated weapons, and that we achieved peace through developing military technology so advanced that warfare became impractical. She paused, reviewing her notes. I also explained that human military doctrine is based on the principle that conflicts should be resolved quickly and decisively, with overwhelming force applied to ensure that enemies cannot threaten human interests in the future. What Dr. Chen didn't mention was that she had also received 17 formal requests for asylum from species who were suddenly very concerned about the implications of human military capabilities. Back in the Galactic Council chambers, the debate continued with growing urgency. High Counselor Thexran had called 3 separate recess periods as representatives struggled to understand how to integrate humanity into existing galactic power structures. The fundamental issue, declared Ambassador Kolnath of the Peaceful Worlds Alliance, is that these humans appear to view military intervention as a commercial service rather than a political necessity. They're offering to solve other species' military problems for payment. General Kexthor reviewed the tactical logs again. Commercial or not, their capabilities are unprecedented. A single human ship eliminated threats that would have required task forces from any of our militaries. If they're offering those services to other species. He didn't need to finish the thought. Every delegate understood the implications. Humanity's emergence didn't just add another military power to galactic politics. It fundamentally changed the nature of conflict itself. Ambassador Velkar accessed the latest intelligence reports. Our analysts have identified 17 ongoing conflicts where human intervention could be decisive. If they honor these military service contracts, the balance of power across 3 entire sectors could shift within months. That's assuming they can maintain the performance standards demonstrated at Kepler 442b, Admiral Siwarthak pointed out. One engagement against a known threat doesn't necessarily indicate consistent capabilities. High Counselor Thexran called for a vote. The question before us is whether to formally recognize humanity as a galactic power and extend standard diplomatic protections, or to classify them as a potential threat requiring monitoring and possible containment. The vote was 31 in favor of recognition, with 16 abstentions. No one voted for containment, largely because the tactical analyses suggested that containing humanity might require the combined fleets of every major power in the galaxy. As the council session concluded, Admiral Siwarthak transmitted a priority message to Altari High Command. Request immediate strategic review of all military assets. Recommend accelerated development of defensive systems and diplomatic outreach to human representatives. Classification, potential game changer. Aboard the TDF Retribution, Admiral Khan received the formal recognition from the Galactic Council along with 17 contracts for military services, 3 alliance proposals, and 47 requests for cultural exchange programs. Major Kim, Khan ordered, send a message to Earth Command. Inform them that the demonstration was successful and that we'll need significant reinforcements to handle current contract demand. What should we tell the species requesting immediate assistance? Kim asked. Khan reviewed the tactical requirements for each contract. Pirates, territorial disputes, aggressive machine intelligences, and 3 separate requests for complete species pacification services. It was exactly the kind of work that humanity's military had been designed to handle. Tell them we're currently accepting new contracts, Khan decided. Standard payment schedules apply, and we guarantee complete resolution of all hostile threats. No exceptions. As news of humanity's formal recognition spread across the galaxy, species that had never heard of Earth began to reconsider their approaches to both warfare and diplomacy. The galactic community was about to learn that when civilizations called for angels, they might instead receive something far more effective. Humans who specialized in solving problems permanently. 6 months after the Kepler 442b incident, the galaxy had learned to fear the phrase Terran Defense Force inbound. What had begun as humanity's introduction to galactic civilization had evolved into something unprecedented, a military service industry that was systematically reshaping interstellar politics. Commander Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the TDF Devastator, reviewing the tactical situation in the Calarian Federation territory. The Hive Collective that had been terrorizing this sector for 2 years was about to discover why 18 species had already surrendered to human demands rather than face military intervention. Status report. Vasquez ordered as her ship dropped out of hyperspace above the Hive Collective's primary staging world. Sensors detect approximately 2.3 million robotic combat units on the planet's surface, reported Lieutenant Torres. Orbital platforms show standard defensive configurations. The Hive appears to be following predictable machine logic protocols. Vasquez smiled grimly. Machine intelligences were humanity's favorite opponents, because they were entirely logical and, therefore, entirely predictable. They calculated optimal strategies, deployed forces efficiently, and never deviated from programmed parameters. Unfortunately for them, human tactics were specifically designed to be unpredictable, illogical, and devastatingly effective. Launch the virus packages, Vasquez ordered. What followed was a demonstration of humanity's approach to fighting machine intelligences. Rather than engaging in direct combat, human cyber warfare specialists had developed quantum viruses that attacked the fundamental logic structures of artificial minds. The viruses didn't try to destroy the Hive collective systems. They convinced the machines that their own allies were enemies. Within minutes, 2.3 million robotic combat units began systematically destroying each other while human forces watched from a safe distance. The Hive Collective's perfect coordination became a perfect weakness as each unit identified every other unit as a hostile threat. "Sir," reported Chief Engineer Morrison, "the planetary defense grid is now targeting the Hive's own command structures. Estimated completion of self-destruction cycle, 43 minutes. Vasquez nodded with professional satisfaction. "Transmit mission completion report to Calarian Federation Command. Invoice for standard hostile elimination services. Total operation time, 47 minutes. The Calarian Federation had expected a months-long campaign to dislodge the Hive Collective from their territory. They had prepared for massive casualties and extensive infrastructure damage. Instead, they received a bill for military services and a completely cleared sector. Similar operations were occurring simultaneously across 17 different star systems as humanity honored its growing collection of military contracts. The galaxy was learning that human military doctrine didn't just solve problems, it solved them so thoroughly that they never recurred. On the diplomatic station Nexus Prime, Ambassador Sarah Chun was conducting her daily briefing for the Galactic Council's Human Affairs Committee. The committee had been created specifically to monitor humanity's expanding influence, and its members were growing increasingly concerned. "Ambassador Chun," said High Counselor Thexran, "we need to discuss the scope of human military activities. In the past 6 months, your forces have eliminated 14 separate hostile organizations, pacified 7 territorial disputes, and completely resolved 3 different genocidal campaigns." Chen reviewed her notes calmly. "That's correct, High Counselor. The Terran Defense Force has successfully completed all contracted services within projected timeframes and budget parameters. What concerned the galactic representatives wasn't that humanity was succeeding, it was how easily they were succeeding. Military threats that had plagued the galaxy for decades were being resolved by human forces in days or weeks." Ambassador Velkar leaned forward. "The efficiency of human military operations is unprecedented. The Margaxi Raider fleet that had been terrorizing trade routes for 30 years was eliminated by a single human destroyer in 6 hours. The TDF Nemesis is an excellent ship," Chen agreed. "Captain Rodriguez has extensive experience with anti-piracy operations." 6 hours, Ambassador, Velkar repeated. 6 hours to eliminate a threat that had successfully evaded Altari, Nexian, and crystalline naval forces for 3 decades. Chen nodded politely. What she didn't explain was that Captain Rodriguez had solved the Margaxi problem by simply ignoring their traditional raiding patterns and attacking their hidden supply bases directly. While other species had focused on defending against raids, humans had eliminated the raiders' ability to operate at all. General Kexthor accessed the latest tactical reports. "Ambassador, we're receiving concerning intelligence about human weapon development. Your species appears to be designing new military systems specifically for fighting galactic powers." "That's correct," Chen confirmed. "Earth's military research divisions are always working to improve our defensive capabilities. Given the number of hostile species we've encountered since making contact, enhanced security measures seem prudent." What she didn't mention was that humanity's military research was now focused on developing contingency plans for fighting every major galactic power simultaneously. The Terran Defense Force had concluded that the best way to ensure Earth's security was to maintain overwhelming military superiority over all potential threats. Dr. Marcus Webb, humanity's chief strategic analyst, had calculated that human forces could defeat any 3 galactic powers in direct conflict, and possibly all of them if given sufficient preparation time. This assessment was based on detailed analysis of alien military capabilities gathered during diplomatic exchanges and service contracts. High Counselor Thex Ran reviewed the committee's primary concern. Ambassador, we need to address the economic disruption caused by human military services. Traditional military contractors, security services, and peacekeeping organizations are reporting massive revenue losses. Chen smiled diplomatically. Competition is healthy for any marketplace, High Counselor. If traditional services want to compete with human military contractors, they're welcome to improve their efficiency and effectiveness. The truth was that no galactic military organization could compete with human services. Humanity offered complete threat elimination with guaranteed results, delivered faster and more cost-effectively than any alternative. Species that had been spending enormous resources on military defense were discovering they could simply hire humans to eliminate threats permanently. The Vorthan Assembly dissolved their entire military, Velkar pointed out. They're now relying entirely on human security contracts for territorial defense. The Vorthan leadership made a strategic decision that proved economically beneficial, Chen replied. Their military budget decreased by 94%, while their security actually improved. What was happening across the galaxy was exactly what human economists had predicted. Species were discovering that maintaining expensive military forces was unnecessary when they could simply contract human services to eliminate threats. It was more efficient, more effective, and significantly cheaper. Admiral Cor Thak reviewed classified intelligence reports. Ambassador, our strategic analysis indicates that human forces are now the dominant military power in 17 sectors. This concentration of military capability in a single species' control is unprecedented. Chen nodded thoughtfully. Admiral, I understand the concern. However, human military doctrine emphasizes defensive operations and threat elimination, not territorial conquest. We have no interest in governing other species' worlds. This was perfectly true, but it missed the larger point. Humanity didn't need to conquer territory when they could simply eliminate any threats to their interests and charge other species for the service. Meanwhile, aboard the TDF Retribution, Admiral Khan was reviewing Earth Command's latest strategic directive. The message was brief and clear. Continue expansion of military service contracts. Priority focus on eliminating long-term galactic threats. New objective, complete pacification of Outer Rim sectors. Resources unlimited. Expected completion timeline, 18 months. Khan smiled as she reviewed the tactical requirements. Earth had decided that the galaxy's various ongoing conflicts represented unacceptable risks to human security. Rather than waiting for these threats to potentially target human interests, the Terran Defense Force would proactively eliminate them. Major Kim, Khan ordered, prepared deployment packages for simultaneous operations in 47 star systems. We're expanding the scope of our military services. Ma'am, that would require deploying 70% of our total military assets, Kim pointed out. Correct, Khan agreed. Earth Command has determined that the most efficient approach to galactic security is to eliminate all existing military threats within the next 18 months. After that, we'll focus on preventing new threats from emerging. What Khan didn't mention was that Earth's strategic planners had concluded that the galaxy was too dangerous to leave unsupervised. Rather than waiting for hostile species to threaten human interests, humanity would ensure that hostile species simply ceased to exist. The deployment orders went out to every human military installation across 17 star systems. Within 72 hours, the largest military operation in galactic history was underway, with human forces simultaneously engaging hostile organizations across half the known galaxy. The operation was designated Galactic Pacification by human military planners, though they kept that name classified. To the species being liberated, it appeared to be an unprecedented surge in human military service contracts. On Nexus Prime, the emergency session of the Galactic Council convened as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Human forces were engaging hostile organizations everywhere simultaneously, with their characteristic overwhelming effectiveness. High Counselor, reported Admiral Sarthak, human forces have initiated military operations against the Skarn Empire, the Bloodclaw Raiders, the Mechanical Dominion, the Void Hunters, and 17 other hostile organizations. All within the past 48 hours. High Counselor Thexran stared at the tactical displays showing human forces spread across half the galaxy. How many ships do they have? Conservative estimates suggest approximately 4,000 combat vessels, Cor Thak replied. But their effectiveness multipliers are unlike anything we've seen. Each human ship appears to be tactically equivalent to an entire battle group from conventional forces. Ambassador Chen appeared on the communication screen from her diplomatic vessel. High Counselor, I want to assure the Council that all current operations are being conducted under existing service contracts with local governments. Humanity is simply honoring its commitments to provide comprehensive security services. Ambassador Thexran said carefully, the scope of simultaneous operations suggests a level of military capability that exceeds our previous estimates. Are you conducting a galactic pacification campaign? Chen paused, accessing recent communications from Earth Command. High Counselor, I'm authorized to inform you that Earth has determined that existing galactic security threats pose unacceptable risks to interstellar stability. We are taking proactive measures to ensure long-term peace. The words hung in the chamber like a death sentence. Every delegate understood the implications. Humanity wasn't just offering military services anymore. They were unilaterally deciding which organizations posed threats and eliminating them. What happens when you've eliminated all the hostile organizations? Asked Ambassador Valkar. Chen smiled pleasantly. Then, the galaxy will be at peace, and humanity will be available to help maintain that peace through our comprehensive security services. As the council session continued, tactical reports kept arriving. The Skarn Empire, gone. The Bloodclaw Raiders, eliminated. The Mechanical Dominion, completely destroyed. Human forces were systematically erasing military threats that had existed for centuries. General Kexthor reviewed the progression of operations with growing amazement. They're not just winning these conflicts, they're completing them. Total victory in every engagement. No survivors, no possibility of resurgence. Within 6 weeks, 43 separate hostile organizations had been completely eliminated. The galactic community found itself in the unprecedented situation of actually being at peace for the first time in recorded history. The only question was whether they were safe from the species that had given them that peace. 1 year after first contact, the galaxy was the most peaceful it had been in 3,000 years of recorded history. Every major hostile organization had been eliminated, piracy had dropped to virtually zero, and territorial disputes were being resolved through arbitration rather than warfare. The cost of this peace was simple. Humanity now possessed unchallenged military supremacy over known space. Admiral Khan stood in the observation deck of the TDF Leviathan, humanity's newest and most powerful warship, watching the construction of the first Terran defense station above the former Korthak homeworld. The irony was not lost on her that the species that had triggered humanity's introduction to galactic affairs was now extinct, their worlds being converted into human military installations. Admiral, reported Captain Morrison, Earth Command is requesting a final status update on Operation Galactic Pacification. Khan reviewed the tactical displays showing human military assets deployed across 47 star systems. Tell Earth Command that all primary objectives have been achieved. Hostile organizations, eliminated. Long-term threats, neutralized. Galactic stability, assured. The statistics were impressive by any measure. In 12 months, human forces had eliminated 67 separate hostile organizations, resolved 34 territorial disputes, and established military bases in every major star system. More importantly, they had done so while maintaining the fiction that they were simply providing military services to local governments. What's the status of the diplomatic situation? Khan asked. Morrison consulted his reports. Ambassador Chen reports that 43 species have formally requested permanent security contracts with the Terran Defense Force. 17 governments have restructured their economies to eliminate military spending entirely. And the Galactic Council has proposed establishing humanity as the official peacekeeping authority for known space. Khan nodded with satisfaction. The transition had proceeded exactly as Earth strategists had predicted. Species that had spent centuries maintaining expensive militaries were discovering that human security services were more effective, more affordable, and infinitely more reliable than their own forces. Dr. Elena Vasquez, now serving as Director of Galactic Affairs, materialized on the holographic communication system from her office on Nexus Prime. Admiral, I need to brief you on the latest diplomatic developments. We've received formal surrender requests from the last 3 species that were maintaining independent military forces. Which species? Khan asked. The Altari Confederacy, the Draconian Empire, and the Nexian Republic, Vasquez replied. High Counselor Thexran is requesting a meeting to discuss terms for what he calls voluntary integration into the human security framework. Khan smiled grimly. The Altari had been the galaxy's primary military power for 3 centuries. Their formal surrender marked the end of any potential challenge to human authority. What terms are they proposing? Khan asked. Complete disarmament of their military forces in exchange for guaranteed protection under Terran Defense Force security protocols, Vasquez replied. They're also offering to provide logistical support and basing rights for human military operations. It was, Khan reflected, a remarkably civilized way to surrender. The Altari had analyzed human military capabilities and concluded that resistance was not only futile but entirely unnecessary. Humanity was offering them better security than they could provide for themselves at a fraction of the cost. Accept their surrender, Khan decided. Standard terms: complete disarmament, full cooperation with TDF operations, and integration into the human security network. As the communication ended, Khan reviewed the broader strategic situation. Earth Command's plan had succeeded beyond all expectations. Rather than conquering the galaxy through force, humanity had convinced everyone to surrender voluntarily by demonstrating that human protection was superior to anything they could achieve independently. On Nexus Prime, the final session of the Independent Galactic Council was convening. High Counselor Thexran called the assembly to order with obvious reluctance, knowing that this would be the last time the council operated as an autonomous political body. Fellow representatives, Thexran began, we are gathered today to formally transfer governmental authority for interstellar affairs to the Terran Defense Force. After extensive analysis, our military and political experts have concluded that human security services provide better protection, greater stability, and more effective governance than our existing systems. The chamber was filled with representatives from species that had voluntarily dissolved their militaries, restructured their governments, and requested integration into what was now being called the Human Security Network. Not a single species had been conquered through force. They had all chosen to surrender because human protection was simply superior to anything they could achieve on their own. Ambassador Chen stood to address the assembly. The Terran Defense Force is honored to accept responsibility for galactic security. Our commitment is to maintain the peace that we've established together and to ensure that all species can develop and prosper without fear of hostile threats. What she didn't mention was that Earth's definition of hostile threats had expanded to include any organization that could potentially challenge human authority. Humanity's approach to maintaining peace was simple: eliminate anything that could disrupt it. General Kex Thor, now serving as the Draconian Empire's liaison to the TDF, stood to make the final formal surrender. On behalf of the Draconian Empire, I formally transfer all military assets and territorial defense responsibilities to the Terran Defense Force. We acknowledge human authority over interstellar security matters. Similar declarations followed from every major power in the galaxy. The process was orderly, civilized, and completely irreversible. Within 6 hours, humanity had become the sole military authority over known space, with the grateful consent of everyone involved. As the council session concluded, Admiral Khan received a priority transmission from Earth Command. The message was brief and decisive: Operation Galactic Pacification complete. Transition to Phase 2, Galactic Governance. Begin implementation of comprehensive security protocols. Establish permanent human oversight of all interstellar activities. Expected completion, indefinite. Khan understood the implications. Humanity was no longer just providing security services. They were becoming the permanent government of galactic civilization. It was a natural progression from their role as protectors, but it represented the final step in humanity's transformation from earthbound species to galactic hegemon. Major Kim, Khan ordered, transmit new deployment orders to all TDF commanders. Begin establishment of permanent governance structures in all major star systems. Priority 1. Ensure long-term stability. Priority 2. Prevent emergence of new threats. The deployment that followed would have been impossible for any other species to contemplate. Human forces spread across the galaxy, establishing administrative centers, monitoring stations, and rapid response bases. Within months, every populated world had a human presence ensuring security and stability. Dr. Chun, now serving as humanity's first galactic governor, established her headquarters on Nexus Prime. Her first official act was to issue the Terran Galactic Security Proclamation, a document that would govern interstellar relations for the foreseeable future. Citizens of the galaxy, the proclamation began. The Terran Defense Force hereby assumes responsibility for maintaining peace, security, and prosperity throughout known space. All species are guaranteed protection from hostile threats, territorial disputes, and military aggression. In exchange, all species agree to operate within the framework of human security protocols. The proclamation was comprehensive, covering everything from trade regulations to territorial boundaries to acceptable forms of government. Most importantly, it established humanity as the final authority on all matters related to interstellar security. The response from galactic species was overwhelmingly positive. For the first time in recorded history, they could develop their civilizations without fear of invasion, piracy, or warfare. The cost, surrendering military independence to humanity, was considered minimal compared to the benefits. On the first anniversary of galactic pacification, Ambassador Velkar of the former Nexian Republic transmitted a message to Earth Command that would be remembered as the moment when the galaxy officially acknowledged humanity's new role. To the Terran Defense Force and the people of Earth. 1 year ago, we called for angels to save us from the court-hack swarm. You sent us devils instead, creatures of war who solved our problems through overwhelming violence. Today, we understand that devils were exactly what we needed. You have given us something no species has achieved in 3,000 years of galactic history, true peace. We are honored to live under human protection. Admiral Khan read the message from her command center aboard the TDF Leviathan, now permanently stationed above Earth. Through the observation windows, she could see the construction of humanity's new galactic command center, a massive structure that would coordinate human security operations across known space. Sir, reported Captain Morrison, we're receiving similar messages from 46 other species, all expressing gratitude for human protection and requesting permanent security contracts. Khan nodded with satisfaction. Humanity's transformation of galactic civilization was complete. They had not conquered through force or intimidation. They had simply offered a better alternative to the chaos that had defined interstellar relations for millennia. The galaxy had called for angels, expecting rescue and salvation. Instead, they had received something far more valuable. Humanity's gift for solving problems permanently, delivered with characteristic efficiency and overwhelming force. It was not the peace they had hoped for, but it was the peace they needed. As Khan reviewed the status reports from across human-controlled space, she reflected on how perfectly the operation had proceeded. Every hostile threat eliminated, every territorial dispute resolved, every species protected and prosperous under human authority. The galaxy was finally safe, governed by the species that had learned long ago that the most effective way to achieve peace was to be so overwhelmingly powerful that no one would ever consider disturbing it. Earth had sent its devils to answer the galaxy's prayers, and those devils had delivered exactly what was needed, a peace that would last as long as humanity remained strong enough to maintain it. Given human military capabilities and strategic doctrine, that would be a very long time indeed. The age of galactic warfare was over. The age of human hegemony had begun. And, across 47 star systems, trillions of beings slept peacefully under the protection of the species that had proven that sometimes devils were exactly what the universe needed.